So let's spell this out. Who does MADD Canada consider to be both a victim and a survivor of impaired driving?
We define victims and survivors pretty broadly. So really anyone who's been impacted by impaired driving. So, more specifically, someone who's lost someone who has been killed in an impaired driving crash, someone who's been injured in an impaired driving crash, or their family. We also will try and support where we can someone who has lost someone, but maybe they're the impaired driver. So if your loved one was driving while impaired and they were killed, we will try to support that person, that family, any way we can. We recognize that they're suffering in the same way that other people are, and they have significant needs that often go unmet by the justice system and the other processes that exist.
And it's not just those that are killed by impaired driving, it's also the injuries that result in some of these decisions as well.
We provide services to both those who've lost someone, but people who've been injured as well. We know the injuries that people can suffer in an impaired driving crash can be life-altering. It may be something that's visible. Maybe someone has scars or lost a limb. It might be something more internal. Maybe they have brain injuries. So we will provide support to those people for as long as they need it. We also know the emotional impact of surviving a crash is really difficult for people. They might have survivor guilt. They might have lost someone in a crash, but they survived. They might be dealing daily with the impact of that crash and the injuries they suffered. So we'll provide support not only to those who've lost someone, but to those who've been injured as well.
To have a shoulder to cry on, a hand to lean on throughout this process is huge. Talk a little bit more about the support groups that victims and survivors use really for a long period of time.
So MADD Canada has developed support groups in some of our larger areas. So in places like Toronto and Ottawa, Halifax, Edmonton, Winnipeg, Calgary, we have in-person support groups where whether it's an injury that someone has suffered or maybe a member of their family has suffered injury or a loss, they can come together in these groups. They're peer-led, and they share their experiences. Maybe it's the grief. Maybe they want to talk about the justice system. There's other people who've been through it they can lean on a little bit. But they have a chance, again, to connect with those who suffered the same kind of tragedy they have. What we found, though, is that a lot of the folks we work with and support are in areas where we just don't have the resources or the numbers to put together a support group. So we've developed online support groups. And so the online groups are really divided by the type of loss or injury. We have a group, for example, with people who've lost their spouses. Right? The kind of conversation they're going to have is very different than the kind of conversation a parent who's lost a child are going to have. So they're able to connect with people who've suffered the exact same kind of loss or tragedy they have and who have very different challenges. One of our groups with the partners, they talked about when is it okay to take off your wedding ring. Those are the kind of conversations you're not going to have in a group of parents who've lost a child. So we're expanding our online groups so that we can reach more people, reach areas where we don't have anyone geographically. And it's one more way to connect people, regardless of geography, with others who've suffered a similar loss.
Now, how can some of these individuals access this support?
So really, there's a variety of ways that people can get in touch with us. We have a 1-800 line that will connect you to a victim service manager in your area. We have a social media presence, so Facebook or Twitter, get in touch with us that way. Email is really a really common way that people get in touch with us these days. You can come to the national office or you can go to your local chapter. Some people who come to us are coming to us years after a crash, and they maybe want to get involved in trying to prevent impaired driving. Other people are coming to us days and weeks after a crash, and they just have no idea what it is that they need, let alone asking us what we provide. So we will provide a service depending on where that person is at, what it is they need, and we'll do that in a variety of different ways, and where possible, we'll do it in a way that really meets the needs of that person.